This is the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, part B, broadcasting timed at 15:30 GMT on Saturday, 23rd of March 2024. We are, of course, marking best baby angel Geronimo and page 19, the London edition, page 19, as a news item headed Book on Johnson's Immoral Court finds an apt reviewer. Now, the book is written by the professional biographer John Bauer, who is a racist right-wing liar, but has sought to portray himself as somehow a moral person, which he is not. Despite his limitations, the topicality that his commercial productions produce in Fleet Street is relevant and can be used to tell the truth using his topical productions as a point of reference. An apt reviewer is a piece byline to Jack Melbourne, and his review is by Marina Wheeler, the daughter, one of the daughters of the BBC reporter Charles Wheeler. This Marina Wheeler was married to the congenital liar Boris Johnson, the crook, for 27 years. But Marina Wheeler is no saint. She would not have stayed married 27 years if she was moral and ethical herself. 27 years is far too long to be married to a crook, liar, racist, evilness personified as Johnson is. Just for the records, let's see what the Times news item byline to Jack Melbourne says. Quote, as a barrister, mediator and author, Marina Wheeler KC, that is King's Counsel, is highly qualified to review a book that puts the boot into Boris Johnson's corrupt and immoral administration. That she was married to him until a costly divorce in 2020 is a bonus. Wheeler, Johnson's wife of 27 years, has written a glowing review in the New Statesman of John Bauer's new book, Downward Spiral, Collapsing Public Standards and how to restore them. Her article in the magazine appears under the headline, Boris Johnson and his court brought an already corrupt system to new laws. Can ethics be restored to politics? Wheeler praises Bowers, a fellow KC, well, I have to do a correction here because I have confused the two Bowers. This one is a different Bowers than I assumed. So that is the correction. It's a different Bowers. This one is a barrister. Wheeler praises Bowers, a fellow KC, Deputy High Court Judge and Principal of Brasenose College, Oxford, for having written a fast-paced, hard-hitting, and readable book about the ethics of public life. She also draws attention to the scandal that prompted him to write it. This was Johnson's WhatsApp message to colleagues after Dame Priti Patel, then his Home Secretary, was found by the independent advisor on ministers' interests to have bullied her officials. Rather than censure her, Johnson's response was to order his troops to form a square around the Pritsa. Wheeler, who separated from Johnson 10 months before he became Prime Minister in July 2019, does not say whether she agrees with Bowers that this was outrageous. She writes, Bowers' thesis is that Johnson's administration or court was corrupt and or immoral and very bad for government. It's very good, however, essential even for the narrative of downward spiral, navigating through the sleaze and scandal. The book asks whether the guards rails designed to prevent a slide downwards are robust and resilient. She cites Bowers on several occasions as he criticizes a bad one like Johnson, who posed a particular challenge to the system. Of particular interest is the peerage awarded by Johnson to Lebedev, the Russian oligarch. Marina Wheeler writes, over in the House of Lords, Bowers finds an ancient institution struggling to maintain legitimacy, but undermined by the elevation of mates, cronies, and party donors. As someone who has made virtually no contribution to the House, Lebedev of Hampton in the London Borough of Richmond, upon Thames and Siberia in the Russian Federation is given as an example. The review also touches on Downing Street Party scandal, relaying the former Justice Minister Ulfsson of Tredegar's remark to Bowers that the rule of law is threatened when those who make the law treat the rule of law as unimportant. She notes that Johnson did get his comeuppance, but only through political machinations, rather than a system that held politicians to account. In the end, Johnson lost the confidence of the MPs. I'll read that part again. In the end, Johnson lost the confidence of his MPs, and the system spat him out, she writes. Wheeler, who is estimated to have received a £4 million divorce settlement, became Johnson's second wife in 1993. Less than 2 weeks after he finalized his divorce from Allegra Mostyn Owen, and gave birth to the first of their 4 children 5 weeks later. They separated in 2018. She recalled in 2021, "My 4 children and I already had tough stuff to handle. My 25-year marriage had become impossible, so I ended it." That's the full piece. I have, of course, edited some bits for clarification in the reading. Okay, on page 21 of the same edition of the Times, Saturday the 23rd of March 2024, there is a piece headed "Decline of Britain's Public Services Leaves People Suicidal," says Watchdog. This is written by Kate McCann, Times Radio political editor. And it reads, "People are being left suicidal by the state of public services in Britain. The body responsible for investigating complaints against the government and the NHS has said. Call handlers at the Parliamentary and Health Ombudsman are having to dial 999 to get assistance for people at least once a week," the chief executive said, adding that trust in the public sector and government had been completely eroded. Speaking to Times Radio, Rebecca Hilsenroth said there had been a huge rise in people contacting the Ombudsman with complaints about the way services are delivered. She said, "We are seeing people who are using public services who are angry, they're suffering mental health challenges. Call handlers experience a lot of people talking about suicide, and that's obviously very difficult for our teams, but it's becoming far too common." This week, the Ombudsman made the unusual move of bypassing the Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, to call for help from members of Parliament in a report looking at women who had their state pension age pushed back. The so-called WASPy women, who have been seeking redress from the government for lost earnings about a decision to move the state pension age, was not communicated effectively, allowing them no time to plan for extra years in work. Speaking about investigations more generally, Hilsenart said that the Ombudsman had been a huge rise in calls. I'll read that again. Speaking about investigations more generally, Hilsenart said that the Ombudsman had seen a huge rise in calls. What it speaks to is a breakdown in trust between citizens in the public in this country and state services, she said. That's why I think it's really important that the government and parliament act on these findings to restore that trust. Downing Street said that it would consider the report and publish a response in due course. You can listen to the full interview on Sunday morning with Kate McCann and Adam Bolton on Times Radio tomorrow at 10 a.m. Now, these two stories. These two stories are moral and ethical, and these are within the framework of baby angel Geronimo's witnessing. The decline of Britain's public services leaves people suicidal is only about 5% truthful. 90% untruthful because it's hiding 90% of the truth, which is more devastating than this headline. Equally, Marina Wheeler, as I said before, stayed married to the congenital liar Boris Johnson for 25 years. I said 27 because of man item. Suicides by the most vulnerable people claiming benefits who were refused victims only of the conservatives. Keir Starmer, the criminal who is politically murdering the Labour Party in Britain, when this criminal was the Director of Public Prosecutions Service, and his time for 5 years came to an end. Before he left as a retiree, additional hurdles against the most vulnerable claimants so that they would not get the benefits without confronting when people are pushed into such situations. It is possible that they would feel suicidal. Prediction based on the behavior of Starmer, behavior of Rachel Reeves, that if following a general election in the United Kingdom, sometime during this year 2024, a government is formed called Labour, that the Labour government that will be formed will not only be a more cruel one than people suspect. We shall continue on these themes in later editions. We're ending this one at 15:39 hours GMT. The video length is 19 minutes, just under 20 minutes.